so that we're not dragging you all the way down to Jessup. Of course, every time I say it's going to be a short meeting, it turns into a long meeting. So.
Peggy, is it better now?
No. Can you try calling in and your video can be up the way it is, but just try calling in with the phone.
And then you'll have to mute yourself on the computer, though.
Okay, hold on.
We do have a quorum,
Great.
so we're good once we get going.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
Am I any better?
Enter your participant ID followed by pound.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry.
Well, while we're waiting for Steve, Mark Powell.
Recording in progress.
Yeah, I was going to say, can you elaborate a little bit more on the free farm?
Is this better?
What kind of collaboration what they're looking for?
Sure. So we did, so everybody else is aware, the First Fruits Farm in Baltimore County is sort of a charitable organization. They accept donations of produce. They also have a farm. They grow produce and they distribute it to those in need. And I guess organizer of that had reached out to Secretary Addicks and asked that perhaps they could work with the Food Center Authority to, I think, collect any food that may, be going to waste from the food center. So anyway, so that's being proposed. But so the goal was just honestly to have a meeting with I guess you, Don, and just see what the potential is.
Okay, yeah. And then we can invite them to a tenants advisory meeting, and then they can make their proposal there as well. Because okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yep.
Don, is this better?
Yes, I can hear you better. Yeah.
Okay, I'm on a cell phone instead. So
Perfect. Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Can we ready to call the meeting to order?
We sure are.
So be it. Meeting called to order at 10 minutes after 9 on March 3rd. What is today? Today is the 22nd of June. And we have a quorum, correct?
We do.
Good. Okay. First things first, welcome to anybody new that's just joining us for the first time. I'm glad to have you. Wish you a lot of luck. Make sure you take full advantage of what the Maryland Food Center has to offer in your career, and enjoy and learn a lot. So first order of business on our agenda today is to approve the minutes of our last meeting, which was March 30th. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes? Someone please make a motion.
So moved.
I
So
see
moved.
Mark. And is there a second?
Second, April Richardson.
Thank you. Any corrections? Any discussions? All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries. The minutes of March 30th, 2023 have been approved. The second order of business is the Maryland Food Center Authority updates. And I guess we start with Don and then Angela and Gary.
Angela and Gary actually, I don't know if Gary's going to speak today, but Angela is not with us today.
Okay, Don, you're up.
Yeah. Okay. So Catherine, are you here? Catherine Hollander?
I am. I'm on.
Okay, there you are. So the first item that we want to discuss is that biogas energy, which we always refer to as BTS, which is what it used to be.
Right.
It's the bioenergy plant in the food center. They have a lease with us, and their lease was a 10-year lease with 2 10-year options. And what they would like to do is exercise their second 10-year option. I don't know if you want to exercise all of your options today, but at least the second option. Is that correct, Kathy? Do you want to do all the options today or just the first one?
Well, the amendment that we proposed was just to allow us to exercise the first, or we intended on exercising the first, but I think that you all had some additional changes that are going to have to be discussed on our side. So I don't know that we'll be able to finalize anything today, but I think this is still open for a little bit of discussion. But I think if you want to kind of lay the groundwork and set it up, that'd be great.
Yeah. So if you're not going to exercise both options to extend, then what we would like to do is grant you the right to extend the option to the second extension now, anytime that you want. And then the third or the second option, which starts in 20 years, which is another 10-year option, we would like to have a 1-year notice that you're not intending to exercise that option. And I mean, up to 1 year. I mean, we like 1 year because we feel that there's a significant site development on that site, and it would take a lot of effort to have to remove what you all have constructed on the site. And it would also take a lot of effort if we could find somebody else who would be willing to come in and take over the management of that particular facility. And with 3 months notice, that's not going to give us the time to really figure out what the alternative use of the site is going to be. And there are some requirements for testing for chemicals or anything on the site. That's got to be done so we know that it's a clean site and there aren't any contaminants on the site as a result of the operation. But the first thing I want to do is make sure that we grant biogas bioenergy DevCo with the right to exercise their 10-year option at the end of this lease period now, because it coincides with their financing arrangement with the bank. The bank, they got financing on the building, and the bank would like to know that they're in a solid lease for the period of their financing. So that makes sense. And then the last part of it is whether or not they can exercise the option to extend the second option at any point. We would like to know have a year's notice that they're not intending to exercise the second option that they have.
Don, can I interrupt just for 1 moment? The motion that Miriam sent us yesterday actually says that they're going to do the second 10-year lease would be the 12 months. So that's the motion that Steve has in front of him. And I don't know how you want to figure that out. Maybe Mark wants to chime in.
Well, we can, we'd like to get to accommodate bio today with this board meeting. So if we're just concerned about the first, we should the first 10-year option, we should get a motion to allow them to extend that.
Mark, can you redo the motion and read it as it should be read? Because the one I have won't work for that.
So
and you had that from Miriam yesterday.
Yeah, I'll have to flip around on my computer. But I wanted the board to know that it's a unilateral right to BTS bio energy. It wasn't it at the 10, each option wasn't where the food center could say, no, you can't exercise the option, in case anybody had that question. So they had basically a 3 10-year periods, first one, the second one, and then the third one. So if anybody had questions on whether the food center at the end of this first term could say no, that's really not, unless there was a default, but that wouldn't matter because you could deal with that regardless. It is a unilateral right with bioenergy.
And I'll chime in. The reason the reason the amendment was required is it was a unilateral right, but the term said that we could not exercise it until the last year of the first 10-year term. So we wouldn't be able to exercise our first option extension until 2028 per the original terms of the lease. And that's where our financing partner had asked that we seek to exercise that early to go ahead and and so the term of the lease lines up with the term of our financing. So that's the reason for the amendment, is that right now, technically under the terms of the lease, we're not permitted to exercise that extension at this time. So it's just that slight change is what we were seeking to get some relief from, so we can exercise the first 10-year extension now.
Don, it's Steve. Why can't we, instead of getting into the second option period, why can't we just allow them to exercise that option now with no changes to notification on the second option? Let's just leave it the way it is. That would require, they couldn't give that until 1 year prior to, which is similar to what they're asking us to make a change with today. I think that should meet their needs and our needs, so that they can go get their financing and we still have a 1 year notice on the second option. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you could just say that this applies to this, the first option
Exactly.
only.
Exactly.
And the second option would be executed in accordance with the lease the way it was written originally.
Does that work for bioenergy?
It does. In fairness, I'll point out that's not actually what it says, though. It doesn't require us to give notice a year in advance. It says we can't give notice more than a year in advance, and that we have to give 3 months notice. And I think that's been the concern raised by your side, is that 3 months is not sufficient. And so, I mean, we'll take that because that obviously worked for us the first time.
Clarifying it.
Sure.
But that is our desire, is to have a year's notice on the second option.
Right. And I'll say there has been some discussion on our side, and I think there is some desire to go ahead and exercise both options now and just go ahead and extend the full 20. This just came to our attention late yesterday afternoon. And so we just haven't had an opportunity to really just discuss this as a business on our side to be able to make that decision right now this morning. So it may just be that we need to, given your desire to make kind of an additional change to the lease, being that you would want at least 12 months notice of an extension, which we understand your position on that. We might just need to kind of revisit this again, given that change. And then also that, there was some discussion yesterday on our side that maybe we do want to just go ahead and exercise the full 20. So
Catherine, our next meeting is September 21st. So we might have to figure out a way to resolve this today. Okay.
Well, if you all want to approve your a motion that would allow us, I'll make a suggestion just so we can you guys can do what you need on your side, is perhaps that we amend the lease that allows us to exercise the options at any point during the term. That will give us the flexibility to exercise either first 10-year extension or both go ahead and exercise the first and second for the full 20. If we don't exercise the second 10-year extension, then that would have to be exercised on not less than 12 months notice. And I think if you all approve maybe those changes on your side, we have to get approval on our side for any kind of significant, any amendments to the lease from our financing partner. So if we know you've approved it, and then we can go back and just get the consent from our lender, then and as soon as we get that, then we'd be able to execute a lease. It would have already been approved by your board. Does that work?
Yeah, well, a minute. Mark and Don,
Yeah.
is that what this motion says? Is it, to paraphrase, or she was paraphrasing this motion? Can we approve this can we vote on this motion, have it in place, which would allow them to go get their approvals afterwards? Because this works for us.
Yeah, I think this
Mark.
works great for us. And
So why don't we go ahead, if Peggy, do you want to read the motion, or do you want to put it up on the screen, or what's the best way for the members to see this?
Let me start by saying that motion is not the same as what she's saying. So Mark needs to look at that motion, and he needs to change it accordingly, because that's the motion I received from Miriam yesterday, and it does not say what she just said. Mark, do you have it in front of you? And can you unmute yourself?
I mean, I can attempt to change it, the motion.
We
Because
just
I
want to
have-
make sure that it's sufficient also for legislative audits.
Mark,
And then Mark Powell has a question.
Yeah, mine's pretty straightforward. I didn't know if Wendy or the comptroller's office has had a chance to review this.
no, they wouldn't have had a chance to review it, no. Because we were trying to get this all done and redlined and everything yesterday, and everybody was busy trying to do something else, so it couldn't get done. But I can read a motion and then see if this works. A motion to revise the language in section 5B of the Bioenergy DevCo ground lease dated 2/27/18, which removes the requirement for the tenant to give the MFCA at most 12 months notice of the tenant's intention to exercise the first option, the first renewal option. As a result of this change, the tenant may give notice to exercise its first 10-year renewal option at any time, but not less than 3 months before the expiration of the ground lease. As to the second 10-year renewal term, the tenant must give no less than 12 months notice, which will provide the authority 12 months in which to explore options for the replacement of the lessee. This is a change from the original language, which permitted the tenant to give a minimum of 3 months notice renewal for both terms. So does that seem to capture what we just said?
It does to me, and sorry I dropped off.
It's all right.
I don't know.
Can we get a, wait a minute,
Don-
Don read it, time out. Can we get a motion to, for the approval of this and a second so that we can discuss it?
Steve, I just wanted to follow up on Mark's comment, and Mark, on the face of what Don just read, I really don't have any concerns with the language. I don't see that it harms the food center in any way. They still have full protections under the lease agreement. So Steve, just wanted to add that to give
Thank you.
Mark a comfort level.
Thank
Okay,
you.
can we get a motion to, can someone make a motion to accept this?
So moved.
Okay, can we get a second, please?
Carlton seconds it.
Thank you. We can open the floor now to discussion. Anything else you want to add? Anyone to talk about this? Again, this is all we're approving this, but we still have to get the agreement from the tenant. So we're moving forward for their benefit.
So we'll work on a revision to the amendment that's in line with the comments today, so that the actual written amendment reflects
Okay.
what was.
Any more discussion or any discussion on this?
This is Mark Truss, because I did drop off, and for the food center, I know I had discussions with Angela, and she loved the idea, because you're guaranteeing a tenant for at least another 10 years, and that
site they invested heavily in. So the rental income, the revenue stream, and the service it provides to the food center, she was all for it. And Mark Powell, you asked about, I guess Wendy's seen it. Usually with, we get leases approved by BPW, and we have quite a discussion with staff beforehand. And the approval usually comes with, some authority to make amendments to accommodate the tenant. So the board, if it's something significant, let's say something that's not contemplated in the original lease, we definitely take it back to, for full Board of Public Works approval. But minor amendments and things of this nature, it usually doesn't go back before the Board of Public Works.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I
Any other
note?
comments?
Yes, I have a comment. Can I note that the motion that was read does require a 12 months notice in the second part of the lease? And so what we'll do is if for some reason that becomes problematic, we'll work from there. Is that okay, Catherine?
Right, and I think that also gives us the flexibility because it's a minimum of 12-month notice. But again, if if our business side determines that we want to go ahead and exercise the full 20 years now, that's clearly 12 months in advance. And I think it gives us the flexibility to go ahead and do that if we so choose, as long as you all are comfortable with that. So we just haven't had a chance, like I said, to fully discuss that on our side, but that was something that's kind of on the table yesterday afternoon.
And I believe April's raising her hand.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I do have a question. As these leases come up for renewal and or modifications of the leases, what right do we have as board members to review the original leases along with the amendments that have followed throughout the years?
Don, you want to answer that?
Well, yeah, I mean, we can give that information to any board member that wants to look at it. If you want to look at our standard leases, what we're using, we'd be happy to send you a copy of the lease so that you can get familiar with the way it was originally approved. And then this one would have an addendum to it, and you can see the addendum, and then you can match it up with the language in the lease. Most of the time, I would say for the last 39 years, I've not had a lawyer on as a board member, and the board members were happy for us to just kind of explain what the change is, and trusted our attorney general and myself and Angela and whoever else is working on this to get it right. But I'm happy to share all that information with you so that you can weigh in and use your attorney background to maybe ask questions that we're not asking ourselves. So, or any board member that wants to wade through the leases as they're written, and then provide you with a red line if we're going to make changes in the future.
So, thank you. And so I heard you say a copy of the lease I would assume that none of them are the same. They all have prior negotiated nuances that make them unique to the tenant.
Yeah, in certain cases, I mean, it's not, we don't have too many leases that are outside of the markets. The market leases are all the same. Every tenant signs the same lease. And then we have leases with NAVCO, and we have leases with biogas, bioenergy, DevCo, and a couple of other outliers. And those leases, you're right, are tailored to their specific use, and it's a different piece of property altogether. So we can send you we can send you a copy of all the leases if you'd like to look at them, and then we'll send you a copy of the market leases, the Maryland Market Center and the produce market, and those leases are generally the same all the way through as well.
Yeah, there's no need to send me all of the leases. It's just that when these types of issues come before the board, for me, it would be helpful if I had an opportunity to review whatever lease amendment is in play.
Okay.
So obviously this time it's a little too late, but I'd be curious to have a copy of this particular lease with any and all amendments that may have been signed prior.
Okay.
April, I'll go ahead and reach out to Angela and have her send all those to you within the
Sure.
next week.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and if she can't find them, I can find them tomorrow, Peggy.
Okay.
And there is, this would be the third amendment. The first was to extend, there was a little bit of permitting issues. They had a 1-year construction grace period. So we extended it once to allow for the permitting period to be a little longer, I believe. And another time was to actually get I think an operational agreement in place. So this is actually the third amendment,
Thank you.
but it's up and running, so everybody's happy.
Okay. So you want to call for a vote, Mr. Chairman? On the motion?
You're on mute, Steve.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know what I did. Is there end discussion and a call for the vote? All those in favor of ending discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay, Peggy, you want to read the motion back before we vote on it? Is that necessary for anyone to hear it, or are we good to vote? Okay.
Okay.
All those in favor of the motion to with bioenergy Devo, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you. The motion carries. Don, next update.
Yes, just want to bring the board up to date on a couple of things. One, the leases that expire on June 30th, 23, that were approved by the Board of Public Works. All those leases have now been signed, so that's good. And then we needed an IT specialist to manage the requirements under the state's new guidelines for to prevent cyber attacks on our systems. And we've promoted Anya, who is who used to be assistant market manager, to that job. And we're filling her job. We're in the process of sorting out through some resumes. It was posted, I think, on Indeed and probably a couple other places. And we'll find a replacement for that person as well, because that person helps Gary a lot with.
Can I pause just for a moment? Catherine and Vinny, you don't have to be on anymore.
Right. I was going
Right.
to say, I didn't want to interrupt, but I was going to say, thank you all. We'll drop
Yeah.
from the call. We appreciate
Okay.
all your efforts and time. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for
Bye.
joining.
All right. You're still with us, Vinny. You want to hear everything, huh?
There we go.
There you go. So we're going to replace Anya with another individual that will pull in, because Anya has been involved in getting us up to a standard that meets the requirements of the state. Everybody's going through growing pains on this, and she's going to take charge of making sure that our system is secure, and that she's going to be responsible for making sure that if anyone doesn't comply with all our safety procedures, that she'll call them out on it. And then she'll be working directly for me. So that's how that's going to work. Any questions on either of those two issues? I'll just move on. NAFCO, as you all are aware, or at least the older board members are aware, and the new ones, we've leased 2 different parcels of land to NAFCO. One that is right behind the Maryland Market Center, and the other one which is behind that site. And we had certain lots, certain acreage that was associated with both leases. And we're just having we had to survey everything, and in the surveys the acreage is off by a little bit, but it's not enough to impact the rental rate on the markets. And so just want to let you know that we've been working through, there's like 5 different agreements. We have an agreement on how those there's 4 properties back there. There's there's NAVCO, which is owned by NAVCO and Merit. And then there's Lobster 1, which is owned by Stanley Perlman Enterprises, and Lobster 2, which is owned by Stanley Perlman Enterprises. And then there's our truck wash facility. So those are the facilities that are located within the area that these agreements are addressing. And the agreements have, they give ingress egress rights to all of the parcels so that they can all come in and leave and have access to their sites. And so we have a maintenance agreement, we have a lot development agreement, and then we have, because the lot development agreement goes towards the extra stuff that needs to be done. We need to put sidewalks in and additional lighting and things like that. And the lot development agreement apportions the cost of those improvements based on the size of the facility that you own. So I think our facility isn't going to be much I think it's a lot larger than what the it's a weird calculation. What we did is when we leased the property to Lobster 3, we were intending to build a 105,000 square foot building on that site. And so we accepted the costs associated with the 105,000 square foot building, because when we got the parcel appraised, we got the parcel appraised as if it was a pad site ready to go, and that there were no other requirements on that site. So we paid, I would say, about 70% of what that cost is, and we got another 30% that will have to contribute to that. And then we had to assign, there's a buffer zone between the Merit property and Lobster 1 that adjoins with a bunch of houses back here in, I forget what it is, something Forest, Sherwood Forest, I think is what it's called, or Sherwood Acres. And so we're having to go back and identify where some of these owners have encroached on our property, and then get them to move their stuff off of it and be in compliance with the reforestation requirements by Howard County. So they look at these forested buffer zones as reforestation areas, and they have very strict regulations on what you can put in that area. They don't even like you putting any plants or trees or anything, because they don't know if it's a native tree or if it's an invasive tree. And I still don't know what an invasive tree would look like. I don't know if all of a sudden at night it would just reach out and strangle another tree. And so, but in any case, that's what Howard County says. So we're having to let these property owners know if they are encroaching on our space, they need to remove a storage shed or some trash or whatever it is. And so we're working through these 5 documents. They're pretty close to being ready. The only thing that needs to be done at this point is they made some changes, we made some changes and gave it back to them. Their attorneys are reviewing the changes that we made, and then they have to then come back to us. We have to agree on the ultimate changes, and then Stanley has to negotiate with Rob Merritt. And Stanley and Rob Merritt were really good friends, and they partnered on the first building that they built, which is the NAVCO building. And since then, there's been a little bit of a falling out. And this is all confidential, folks. And if you happen to be talking to the Merritt family or the NAVCO family, you don't need to bring this part up. But there has been a falling out, and Rob has been a little bit difficult to work with. He held up their site development plans and things like that because he was the developer of record with the county. And so some of you know that we've been trying to get them off of the developers agreement and put us in place in that place. And we've decided that what we really want to do is keep Merit on the developers agreement with us. We're already there, and add Stanley Perlman Enterprises on the developers agreement, because the developers agreement requires the county to come in and check and make sure that everything was built in accordance with the plans that were submitted to the county. And if anything needs to be altered or changed, then the company that did the improvement is going to have to make that change. And I don't want to be stuck in the middle. So we want to have both of them on the developers agreement, and then go forward with the finishing capital improvements that are necessary by the county.
And the meeting is being live streamed.
Yeah. Okay.
So much confidentiality. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about that. But I don't think that I've said anything inappropriate. So,
No.
So that's all that I have on the development agreements. Does anybody have any questions about any of those agreements? Or April, I'm happy to send all of those agreements to you if you'd like to see when we get the final documents together. They when NAVCO submitted its first round of changes, they did not call out the changes, and so I want to give a special shout out to April for, I mean, not April, but Angela, for taking the original document and comparing it word for word with the documents that they changed. And that's the only way we found their changes, instead of highlighting the changes and calling them out like most people would do. And so I carried the stack of these documents into Stanley's office when we were discussing our comments with regard to their changes, and said, yeah, we've made a lot of changes as well. Now we can just give you this whole stack, and you can try and find out what changes we made, or we'll go through it with you and tell you what changes we made. And we expect that the next time you submit these documents to us, you're going to call out any changes you made to the document. It was just something that I would have expected any attorney to know that was required. And but Angela did a great job of going through and reading every word in both documents, and then finding where the changes were so that we could review what changes they were making. So that's down the road a little bit. That may come up for discussion at the next board next meeting for us. And I think that covers everything that I had to talk about. So in the updates, any questions on the updates? Anybody have a question?
I have more of a comment. So Don, as a member of the board, I'm always happy to read documents in advance and give my unofficial legal opinion and our thoughts, so that we could, tee up some of the minute or details that I may see legally that may not pop out to the average reader.
Yep, that's fine. Okay. Glad to have your support on that. So anybody else have any questions on the updates? Any questions on anything? Hey, I'm sorry, I have a 6-month-old puppy, and she will yelp every now and then, probably pop up. She's an attention seeking freak. And I have people coming into my home today, and I didn't want to leave her at home because she would be screaming the whole time they were there if I wasn't there. So I asked her to behave, but I don't know that she really cares what I want. She's got me wrapped around her paw. In any case, I apologize if she yelps once in a while. That's what it is. But she's this is her. She's a cutie, but
She's so cute.
she also is a pain. I mean, like I said, she's got for the first couple of months when I had her, we were struggling to see who was going to be the boss, and I lost, and she won. So So anyway, that's all I have for the updates.
Don, it's Steve. I have one more question. To finish up our discussion from old business, Angela mentioned about a new auditor. Have we found one? I think is the question.
Yes, we
A
have.
financial audit or auditor.
Yeah.
Yes, we have.
Okay, that's just the closing that loop on old business. Our next order of business is the statement of revenue and expenses.
Correct.
Usually Angela does this, but you're up, Don.
Yeah, so for the new members that are here, we have gates at both the produce market and the Maryland Market Center. And when people enter those facilities, they pay an entrance fee. And the entrance fee varies depending on whether it's a passenger vehicle, a six-wheel truck, a tractor trailer. And the original idea was that the more product a tenant brings into the market, the more wear and tear they would create for the market, and therefore they were charged for the trucks that they were bringing in and all the vehicles that come in and cause wear and tear on the macadam and the concrete landing strips and all that. So this statement is not, it's not like a business statement where you're looking at revenues and then you're looking at expenses and then you see that there's a pretty good differential at the back. These are the revenues that we collected to gate. We use to offset what we call service charges, and we provide trash removal. We provide guards at the guardhouse. We have some light duty maintenance that we provide, and so our staff does that. And these costs are used to this revenue is used to offset those costs. And then at the end of the year, if there happens to be a surplus of money that was collected, then that's credited back to the tenants. And then if there's a deficit at the end of the year, then they're charged. That amount gets factored into the next year's billing. And so what you're looking at are the entrance fees coming in, and then you can also see the expenses associated with the market. And they're usually compared to the same last year. I don't have that in my packet, but hopefully you guys can look and see that there's what we call a receipts and disbursement statement for the produce market and one for the Maryland Market Center. And if you have any specific questions about any of those.
I do, Don. Again, just where these are the two markets. Where does the NAFCO rent, the bio rent? The board, we don't really see that. Where do those rents, the car wash, the truck wash, any of those other peripheral, which are now significant because of the NAFCO,
Right.
and bio, those are significant income streams. Why, other than the annual review of the financial statements at the audit, when the audit presented to us, we don't see those numbers? Is there?
There's no reason why we don't give you those numbers. It's just something that the board has never requested. I mean, if you want us to look at trying to give you an update on those, we can. I mean, usually you get to see what those leases collected over the year were in the financial statements. And Angela was telling me that, you know, they changed the way government entities report out income from a rental property. And so you usually don't show rental income the way that you used to at the end of the year. But because we're giving bioenergy DevCo, since we're giving them an option to exercise their extension, we now can account for that income on our financial statement, which is great because now we can it'll actually be on the financial statement, where it wasn't on the financial statement until I think the last rent payment was made or something, which will be 30 years from now. But if you want, I can ask Angela if she can give you an updated income projection at the meetings. And
those are some significant dollars now. I mean, they really are.
Mhm.
They didn't used to be. Okay, Don, there's no reason for a motion. This is for informational purposes only.
It's for your, I mean, it's not really for your approval. It's just for for FYI. We do ask the board of directors for each tenant advisory board. We have a tenant advisory board at the produce market and one at the Maryland Market Center to go through them with us, and then they approve them or reject them. And if they reject them, then we try and figure out how we can work out the rejection. Okay.
Does anybody have any additional information that they want to discuss? Don, do we have any more updates?
We
will need a motion to accept the R&Ds though.
Oh, we do?
Yes.
Okay. Do I see a motion to accept the revenue and expenses agreement, please? Statements, please.
So moved. This is Darren.
Thank you, Darren. Is there a second?
Second, Carlson.
Thank you, Carlton. Any discussion regarding these? Any additional discussion regarding these? Hearing none, I call for a vote on accepting the statement of revenue and expenses for the 10 months ending April 30th, 23. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The motion carries. Thank you all very much. Anybody else have anything they care to bring up? Discussion?
I do.
Questions?
I have just a general statement.
Go.
Today is Steve's last meeting as the chairman. Gail will be chairing the next meeting. And I want to give my heartfelt appreciation to you, Steve, for being chairman. You've always been very accessible and you're very knowledgeable with both real estate and the food industry, having had your family involved a lot in both. And I just really appreciate your counsel. You've been great at letting me know when you think that the board might want more information than this, or at least you want more information in this, and you have really been a really great resource for us. And I just want you to know that I appreciate your willingness to serve. You're now, I think, the longest serving board member. And I just want you to know that I appreciate your willingness to be as engaged as you have been. So
thank you, Don. I appreciate that. Yeah, today is my last meeting after many years. And I personally want to thank all that I have served with alongside all these many years, with a special shout out to Don, of course, Angela, Peggy, and Gary, and of course, Mark. Mark's been alongside us a long time for all their help in educating me about the public sector. I'm a private sector guy, that's for sure. So this is really an education, a new way of thinking. And then lastly, I want to wish all of you that are involved moving forward my best wishes for continued success. And please give Gail all the support that you can. I'm sure she will appreciate it as much as I did all these years. So I thank you for your kind words, Don, and everybody else I've served with. Thank you very much. Any other business? And I have a motion.
Wish you all the best.
Thank you,
Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Steve, you can still join us as a member of the public.
A member of the what?
You might not be able to speak, but you can always join the meetings as a member of the public.
Yeah, thank you. I have to know when the meetings are.
Or you can watch us live stream now.
Yeah, that's all true. That's all true. Seeing no other business, can I have a motion to adjourn today?
So moved.
Can I get a second? You guys don't want to cancel?
This is
Second.
Darren.
Thank
Give it
you. We got a
first to Jim.
second. All
Yep,
those in
here.
favor of, all those in favor of adjourning at 9:50, I think it's 9:56 a.m. on June 22nd. All those in favor, say aye.
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 We are, all those opposed. We are officially adjourned. Thank you all very much and good luck.
It's
Bye-bye.
been a pleasure, Steve.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Peggy,
Yes.
if you just